Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Looney. I'm the Customer Services Director here at Overleaf, and we'll be getting started in just a couple of minutes. I just want to get everyone a chance to get joined up since we're still actually a minute or so before our start time. So we will be starting in just a moment. Thanks. Hello everyone. Again, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ryan Looney. I'm the Customer Services Director here at Overleaf, and we'll go ahead and get started with the webinar now. We're really glad that you could all join us today. And I know some of you may have been part of our Intro to Overleaf Part 1. If you were, thank you very much. Welcome back. And if this is your first time joining us for an Overleaf webinar, we're really glad that you're here. Just a couple of things before we get started. If you do have a question, you can put it in the questions panel. We do have some time set aside at the end for a Q&A. And any questions that we're not able to get to during the webinar today, we'll answer those as we can after the webinar concludes. And if you have any other questions that maybe aren't related to the webinar, that's fine too. Please feel free to put those in that question panel. So right now you should be able to see my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with the bulk of our webinar today. And I'll let you know what we're going to be up to today. So some of this may be a little bit of a review if you have been to the previous webinar, but we're going to go through again how to create a new project, and then we're going to dive into some slightly more in-depth topics. We'll talk about adding images and tables to your Overleaf document, how to find and fix an error, and some best practices around that, how to share your project, and then how to either download your project files or submit your completed project to a journal or repository. And then, of course, there's time for Q&A. You can ask your questions anytime in the questions panel, and we'll get to those as we have time. Okay, so before we go too much farther, I would just like to put up a poll for you all to answer, and it's a pretty easy one. What I'd like to know is, do you already have an Overleaf account? If you do have an Overleaf account and you would like to follow along with some of the exercises that we're doing today, that's fantastic. And please feel free to go ahead and open up a browser window with your Overleaf account open. If you have not already created an Overleaf account, you can do that now at overleaf.com/register. And either way, you're more than welcome to just follow along with the webinar. You don't have to do anything and participate. You can't just watch. That's completely fine as well. You'll also have access to a recording of this webinar afterwards as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. Thank you so much for answering that. It looks like most folks do have an Overleaf account. And again, if you don't, overleaf.com/register to sign up for that free Overleaf account. Okay, so now that we're ready to get started, if you would like to, and you don't have to, I do have a sample project. Sorry about that. I do have a sample project at bit.ly/overleaf-intro2. So if you would like to follow along on a sample project, which is similar to the project I'll be working on, you can go ahead and go to bit.ly/overleaf-intro2. Otherwise, you can just watch and follow along. Okay, so one of the items that people always ask about when we are teaching Overleaf and LaTeX is how to upload a bibliography. So there are a few different ways to upload that bibliography. You can just upload a .bib file. You can link with Mendeley. You can link with Zotero. And then once you get your bib file connected to your Overleaf account, you can then use the cite command to pull in those references. So I'm actually going to leave the presentation for just a moment, and we'll go ahead and just go to a sample project that I have here so that you can see what that looks like. So this is quite similar to the sample project that you had access to. And actually, I should take a step back. So I have given you this link to the sample project, and it is a read-only link. So if you want to work on it yourself, you will have to make a copy of that project. And if you've opened up that project, you can go to the menu, and then you can go to Copy Project. And that will open up your very own copy of this project so that you can make any kind of edits that you'd like to make during this webinar. So go ahead and copy that project if you had opened that read-only version so that you can edit this project as you wish during our time together today. So what we've got here is we already have a bib file that's uploaded, and a bib file looks like this. So this one just has one reference in it, but it has all the information that LaTeX needs to turn that particular entry into a reference within your paper, and that reference will be formatted according to whatever reference style that you're using in your Overleaf project. So where do you get this bib file? So just about any reference manager that you use, so EndNote or RefWorks, those will all have an option to export your library as a bib file. Once you export that bib file, you can just click Upload, select that file that you have downloaded from your bibliography manager, and then it will upload right into your Overleaf project. If you have a Mendeley or a Zotero account and you have an upgraded Overleaf account, you can actually directly link your Overleaf account with your Mendeley or your Zotero. So this is really useful if you have built a big library and you don't want to have to keep updating it. And I've had a question that says, can I repeat the link? Yes. And actually, let me put that in our chat panel to everyone. So this is the link, and you can just click on that to get to your own version of that project. So just copy that project, and you'll be able to edit it. So if I want to connect my account, and again, you have to have a paid account. So there are a couple of different ways to upgrade your Overleaf account. You can either have a student, a collaborator, or a professional subscription. You can start a free trial. We're happy for you to do that. But if you don't have a paid account, you do need to use the references .bib. So you need to get that bib file from your reference manager. If you do want to connect your accounts, again, you go through that same screen, and then you can click to link your account with Mendeley or with Zotero. And we'll see if I can get logged into my Mendeley account without too much trouble here. Here we go. And once I sign in, oh, I have to enter my password yet again. There we go. Now I'm all linked up. So it took a few clicks, but I was able to get it all linked up. You can link your Mendeley account with a group. Unfortunately, you can't link Zotero with folders, but you can link it with a group or not, and then create. Oops, and I already have a file called references.bib, so I'm just going to call this one something different. So we'll call it mreferences.bib. So now it shows up just like that other bib file did, except it's got this little arrow here. So it looks like it's like a little link out. So what this means is that if I click on that, I have the ability to download it, or I have the ability to refresh it. So if I change it over on Mendeley, then I can refresh it here in my project. In order to use that Mendeley file rather than the references file, I actually need to make sure that I'm calling in the right file. So here you can see I've got my bibliography style command. I'm just using plain, but you can actually pull in most of the common bibliographic styles. So you could even just pull in APA or Chicago right here. Some of the more custom ones, you're going to need what we call a BST, a bibliography style file, in order to be able to use those. And then this is the file that you're referring to. So in my case, I need to change that to mreferences. And once I recompile it, it's going to pull in those references. And in this case, I have referred to my old file. So if I go and use this cite command, it automatically pulls up entries from my bibliography file that I've chosen to use in this. So I'll click on that particular citation, and if I recompile, you'll see that citation, which had been the Douglas Adams citation, now it's a different reference because I have pulled in a different citation name for that. But it's all nicely formatted, and your references appear in a list at the end of the document. So that is a super quick overview of how to get your references into your Overleaf project. So I know that's very quick because we have a lot to cover today. So I'm going to try to find my slides again if I can, and see what we have next on the agenda. So here we go. All right, so some more slides. So one thing you'll notice in my project is that we have an image. So let me just click on that so you can see this slide. So there are a few steps to adding an image. So when you add an image in Overleaf, it's not like adding one in Word where you can just copy and paste. You actually have to upload your image into your Overleaf project and then call that image in. And so we have an example in your project already of an image being brought into your Overleaf file. And if you double click on your preview, it'll take you to that place in the code. Similarly, you can also go back and forth between code and PDF location with these little arrows. But you can see that pulling in an image, we've had to use a lot of text to pull in that image, and it seems a little daunting, but really it's pretty straightforward. And you can actually just copy and paste this as an example if you want to pull in something else. So the first thing we need to do is we actually need to upload an image to our project. So if you want to, you can create a new folder called images and pull all your images into that folder, which makes for easy organization. Or if you just want to simply upload an image, you certainly can. And so let me find an image to pull in. That image, I'm just uploading it from my desktop, but of course there are other places you can get it. If I want to rename this image, I can, just like any other file. I just clicked on it and we'll just call it dog for easier reference. And then if I want to add it into my document, what I'll do is I'm just gonna copy from the image that I already have here. And let me make this a bit larger here so you can see it a little bit better. So what we have here is we have to begin the figure. Then we have to decide how we want to display the figure. So in this case, we're centering the figure. And then we need to actually do the business of including that image in our document. So I've done include graphics. I've given it a scale, and this scale is 1.7 times the original image size. And then I pull in the image by name. I give it a caption, I can give it a label, and then I can end that figure environment. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull in, instead of universe, I'm going to, whoops, make sure to, there we go. If I actually just do include graphics and do that open curly bracket and click, I'll have a list of my images that are there. So I can just click on that image, so I don't have to worry about typing out that name. And what is the H exclamation point? So that helps it decide where to go. So whether or not that image will float or kind of stick where you put it. So usually LaTeX decides where the image goes. So it'll put it on, it may not put it exactly in the same place in relation to the text that you have put it in the code, but in this case, it makes it a little stickier. And then I'm gonna just go with a width here. So I'm gonna go with a width of 4 centimeters instead of a scale. So you can do it either way. And then I will recompile. And then you'll see it has pulled in the dog picture. And I realize I have still captioned it the universe. Let me change that caption to the dog instead. And we can recompile it again. There we go. So you see we've got our second image there as well. So that's a very quick primer in getting images into your Overleaf file. I did have a question about what happens if you don't know how to scale your image. So you can either pick like a centimeter size or a scale of the image. You can also just do some trial and error. And I actually have a link down within the document about how to include images that give you a couple of other techniques on how to include an image in your Overleaf document. Can we upload SVG images? Yes, but I think they will not preview within the document. So you'll need to actually compile them to see them. So like if you click on this dog image, it shows you that preview. That won't be the case for SVG, PDF, and a couple other file types. Okay, so I do want to get a chance to show you tables as well. And again, I've included a simple sample table in this document. And this is just a very basic table. There's a website called tablesgenerator.com that you can go to and paste your tabular data into there and click a button and it will give you the code to put in. But sometimes it might just be easier or you want a little more flexibility to do it yourself. So to put in a simple table, and again, I can just show you some of the basic steps here, and I'll make sure to distribute these slides with a follow-up email after the webinar as well. But you have to create some kind of environment to build that table in. So the tabular environment is the default method. There are some others, but you can just start with that for simple tables. You'll specify the number of columns with C's. So if you have within the curly braces CCC, that's a 3-column table. When you're actually building the table, putting in the data, you put in your data and you put an ampersand between cells. You can put in an H line for a horizontal line and then the double slash to end the row and go to the next one. So just to give you an example of what that looks like. So here we have a simple table, and you can see how it's been displayed on the preview. And here we've got it centered. So if you don't want it centered, you don't have to do that. But if you get rid of that begin, make sure you also get rid of the end. And then we have done the begin tabular here. So now LaTeX knows we're starting this tabular environment. And you'll see CCC here, and I put the vertical line, the pipe there, to tell it to put vertical lines between the cells. So that's how you can show those vertical lines. I have a horizontal line at the top, and I have a horizontal line at the bottom. And then you can see here I've put some cell data here, so I can also go ahead and like call this A, B, and C. And if I recompile, you'll see that top row change from cell to ABC. And you can go about and put H lines in between all of your rows if you wish. There are a few other little formatting suggestions, again, that are included in the document that's linked from this Overleaf project. So that's a very, very quick intro to a simple table within Overleaf. One of the other things that is very important is learning how to find and fix errors within Overleaf. And I want to make sure that we have time to go over this. So just to give you a couple of reminders here, look for the red X in the editor pane as you're going. You can recompile your project and look for the red number above your preview. Make sure you fix errors as soon as you find them. So the longer you let errors build up, the harder it's going to be to solve those errors, because one error can often lead to another. And then when you're fixing errors, work from the beginning of the document down. So first of all, let me show you what it would look like to have an error in your project. So if I, for instance, leave out my end curly brace here, you can see already I've been given this little red exclamation point that says unclosed group. So this is a pretty good hint that I have an error here. If for whatever reason I don't fix it, I end up right away with a compile error and a runaway argument and some other difficulties here. So we want to make sure that we fix those, and we also get some hints about what this is here. So runaway argument. So it gives me a question, it points me to that line, and it tells me, I suspect you've forgotten a closing curly brace. So I can go ahead and fix that. And what's happened here is it won't even finish compiling the PDF because this error is so terrible. So as soon as I fix it, that exclamation point goes away, and if I recompile, you'll see that everything recompiles really nicely. And I should also be able to, I think, just only slightly break something here. So in this case, I've removed that end curly brace. It hasn't given me a warning here, but if I recompile, it's going to be unhappy with that. So sometimes you get that as you're typing and sometimes you don't, but that's a reason that it's really good to recompile frequently and see what your errors are and fix them from the beginning. I have a couple of questions about images. So should you stick to PDFs in general? Yeah, PDFs are actually the best kind of images. They render much more quickly. So if you have just a few images, pretty much any type is fine. I do recommend JPEG over PNG because it's a little bit smaller and faster to compile, and PDF is the fastest. Okay, so I know we're very short on time, so I want to make sure we get to how to share your projects. So you've already seen one way to share a project. You've seen that link that I gave you previously. So you actually default to inviting people by email. So I can actually type in an email address, decide whether they can edit or read, and then share it with them. With a free account, you only get one invited collaborator. With upgraded accounts, you get more invited collaborators. But everyone can share via link sharing, and you can share these links with whoever you'd like. And just make sure that you share either your edit link or your read-only link with whoever you intend to edit or read your project. So sharing is quite easy. It's just the share button up here. And then another piece of information I want to get to is how to download your project and how to get your files out into the world. So there are a couple of ways to do that. So you can just download your PDF with the little download PDF icon here. So if I click on that, it'll just download it, just the PDF. And then you can also go to your menu over on the left. You can choose to download the source files, so they'll download as a zip. And you can choose to download that PDF file. If you want to get files suitable for publication, if you click on that logs and output files, you can see this other logs and files. And if you click that down arrow, you can see all the different files you can get. So this will include your BBL file, which you may need for publication. So once Overleaf processes or LaTeX processes your bibliography, it'll result in a BBL file that your publisher might want you to have. There are certain journals within Overleaf where if you use the template that they have provided, and you can find that either by looking in their instructions for authors on their website, or you can search within our template gallery at overleaf.com/templates, you'll see that instead of a submit button, you get this branded submit button. And this will actually give you a direct API submission to this particular journal. We only have this for a handful of journals, but if you see it, it's awesome. It means that you don't have to do any downloading and uploading. Everything just gets sent automatically. There are other journals that have a download and submit. So it'll prompt you to download your files and then have a link to that journal. And if you're in a regular project that isn't a branded template, you'll see this submit button here. And there are lots of options here. So you can actually, and of course it's always slowest on the live demo, there we go. You can actually search for a journal. So you can actually search for, there's that MNRAS, or any other journal that you think might be on Overleaf. You can just browse. We have some repositories here as well. So for instance, if I wanted to submit to arXiv, I get that download and submit window as well. So it'll download the correct files for arXiv and then direct me to the arXiv website to submit. And you also may have noticed that there was an Overleaf gallery link. So if you have original templates and examples that might be of use to others, you can share them within the gallery. There is an approval process, and we don't approve everything, so we try to keep personal information out of it, and we need to make sure that it is original material. Okay, I know we are super running out of time. I have a couple of other questions. One was, what was the website for getting help with tables? It's tablesgenerator.com. And then another question was about compiling offline. So at this time, Overleaf is online only. So that means you have to be connected to the web to be able to edit and compile on it. You can back up your files by downloading them, and then you can edit them with some other offline editor and then re-upload them to your project. But you can't actually compile within Overleaf unless you're on the Overleaf site and connected to the internet. Another question, do indents matter like in some programming language? No, they don't really. So you can, a lot of folks will actually indent their code to make it easier. So for instance, I might have chosen to indent everything between the beginning and end, but it is not required and it doesn't make a difference. And then we have a couple of other questions as well. So do we care about warnings or can we mostly ignore? Oh yes, you care about warnings. So you do want to make sure that you don't get too many errors or warnings built up in your project, or you're going to have a very hard time later on. So if I leave something out, it may allow me to compile this project, and it won't in this case, but in some cases it will allow you to compile with some errors. And I don't recommend doing that because it will compile with errors until it doesn't. And then all of a sudden you find you have lots and lots of errors to fix. So it's better to fix them as you go. And then one last question, can we convert final output to Word? No. So we only output to PDF or to the source files. There are a few services that will do that, but at this time, Overleaf doesn't do that directly. We are out of time, so thank you all for joining me. We will be sending a follow-up email with a survey and a link to the recording of this webinar. If you have any questions, you're welcome to contact me directly. You can also get in touch with our support team at support@overleaf.com. Once again, thanks very much, and I really appreciate your taking part in this webinar.